undoubtedly you have seen, perhaps even felt the wrath of hustle culture. If you live in the Silicon Valley and if you're a CEO of a private Silicon Valley company, you have undoubtedly lived life full tilt. But one of the things I appreciate about Dana is every year she takes a little trip to Africa. And so she is living by example. So Dana, talk about vacation. You're actually still working, obviously, but how do you balance life? And what have you found with people taking less and less vacation? What's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I consider this a workation. So I'm just working remotely.
Different
Um,
look on a different continent.
exactly. But I think the first thing to understand is the goal with anyone is to make sure that one, you can be promoted, you have a career plan, whatever that is. It might be into management, it might be some other career track at your company. And to be able to do that so you can make more money, buy rental properties, and retire earlier, right? That's the plan.
Right.
And with that, everyone is different. So for example, when I think about myself, having 2 weeks where I'm never on my computer, never checking email is probably the most stressful thing that would ever happen to me.
Yeah.
I myself personally want to check in, even if it's for 4 hours a day,
Mhm.
check in, file everything away, feel like I got something done, my inbox at zero, whatever it may be.
Now,
Um,
1 second,
yeah,
Dana. I know the answer, but I want the audience to appreciate it. Today, you're the CEO of Hemlane, startup or a small software company, growing all of that. That makes sense to the audience. But this is who Dana was when you were an individual contributor at Apple or one of these other places, right? I think people need to realize this is just who you are.
yeah, that's just who I am exactly. When I was at Apple, Nest, anywhere, I would do this. Even when I would come to Africa back then, I would still work. That personally is how I like to manage my schedule of I'll take a half of a day off here, I'll take a half of a day off here, whatever it may be. But it's not that I'm off for 2 to 3 weeks. That is me personally. And it's not because I don't trust people on my team. Like my team could have me out and they would not need me. It's more of like, I don't want to come back to having 1,000 emails to filter
Yeah.
through and have back-to-back meetings then later because everyone has queued things up for the future, et cetera, for
Yeah.
a later date. And so that's personally how I operate and what makes me happy. And there are other folks who need to be 100% off for a longer period of time. So I do know some folks, whether they're CEOs, executives, individual contributors, managers, who say, I physically just need a week-long break. And that is the only way for me to unplug and get like 10 hours of sleep a night. I need to fully disconnect for 5 days straight, 10 days straight, whatever it may be. And so if that is you, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. The first is over communication. And what I mean by over communication is with your team, you have to understand if you're taking 2 weeks off, how do you make sure it's not a huge burden of doing double work for someone else, right? For me, if I take a half of a day, telling someone to cover for the rest of the day is kind of nothing, right? But if it's 2 weeks, how do you how do you go through and make sure that you are accurately communicating up front? You have the resources. Like my favorite team members at Hemlane is someone who tells me, I'm going to be taking 2 weeks off in, 4 months from now. Huge heads up. And by the
Yep.
way, I've already spoken to X, Y, and Z, these 3 people. This person's going to cover this shift. This person's going to cover this shift. This person's going to cover this shift. And by the way, when they're out, I told them I would cover for them. That to your manager, whether your manager is a CEO, a director, whomever it may be, that is actually a huge delight that you can manage your own schedule really, really well. And they don't have to think about coverage or anything like that. And that it's a give and take with team members for when you're out. We do the same thing, obviously, if you're gone for half of a day of like, okay, this person has me covered, I'll cover them on a different day. And so I encourage when you walk away, because you can take technology everywhere, I encourage 2 things. The first is understanding the type of person you are and what type of vacation you need. Is it short stints over, every single month you're taking a little bit here or there? Or is it, hey, I need one big chunk of time off and that's how I operate and that's how I'm going to be most effective? That's the first thing. Then the second thing is to track it and over communicate. So a lot of companies, including Hemlane, have unlimited time off.
Hmm.
And the reason for that is, hey, there's no kind of right answer of how people should take their time off and manage it. You manage your burnout however you see fit, or your family holidays, etc. However, being able to communicate it, being able to have the backup, that is actually going to help you get into management, move up, because you're so good at managing your own schedule. That tells and signals to your manager or director, they can now manage other people's because they're even able to manage their own schedule so efficiently. So that's what I recommend. Don't give your manager, whoever you report to, like a week or 2 weeks heads up of you're going to be taking 2 weeks out of the office and you haven't thought about coverage or anything like that. Make sure you set yourself up for success with that, and then return the favor for your team members.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we need to talk about is vacations do have a place. I think there is a lot of folks who simply don't take them. I think you have to recharge. I think you have to get
Yeah.
yourself right. I think you need to give back to your family. In the Silicon Valley, as I'm sure lots of places, work can consume you, and there's not a lot of you left to kind of give back, or you're cranky or tired or whatever it is, stressed. And I think for a lot of folks, uh, we need to find a way to take care of our mental health. And I don't know how that is for you. I grew up, me personally, where I thought the answer was you had to climb the corporate ladder to quote unquote be successful. I do think there's a lot more to that now. And I think if we focus on being happy, or whatever that is
Yeah.
to you, uh, life can get better. It's not all about work, work, work. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And, you have to listen to your body from that perspective. If you feel like you're really unproductive at work, but you're still working through, then it's a sign that you need some sort of vacation, and listening to your body on that and making sure that you're sleeping every night and sleeping enough hours. Just all of that, starting with yourself and making sure you're in a good place is going to make sure that you can perform, and also just perform on weekends, because then on weekends you're not exhausted and you can get up and say, great, I'm going to go buy another rental property. I'm going to spend this weekend thinking about that. And so I think that's really important. I mean, I'll leave it with, Michael, you know how much I work. I still sleep 8 hours every single night.
That's
And
awesome.
I encourage others to, if people are saying I'm sleeping like 6 or 5 hours and I'm super stressed, you need
Yeah.
to get a good plan in place, over communicate on things to your team, make sure that you have that good balance with your life, and that you're healthy from that perspective. And a lot of it just starts with everything from having the right desk setup, to having the right work-life balance, to making sure you're doing yoga or meditation, to eating healthy. All of that will help make sure in the office that you're able to perform at your best.
And one of my most vivid memories, I was a individual contributor at the time. I took my first Alaska cruise. And the reason this was so memorable for me is, at the time, these cruise ships didn't have Wi-Fi, or at least it wasn't at a price I was willing to pay. I don't remember. But I remember when you come out of San Francisco and you head to Alaska, the first day and a half, you're in the middle of the Pacific. There's
Yeah.
nothing. So I remember the first like 8 or 10 hours stressed out. Like, I can't connect. I don't know what's going on. I'm not up to date. But the next day, Dana, I literally felt 5 pounds lighter, because I was just not there. So what I would tell people to do is, sometimes, folks, you have to unplug. It doesn't have to be for weeks or months, but a couple of days leaving your phone in the drawer, and just disconnecting from everything. I think you'd be shocked at how good that felt. I still remember it. I'm like, wow, this is a weird feeling.
It also helps with creativity, I notice. Like the best ideas that I get are usually on planes that don't have
Yeah,
internet. And
yeah,
then I'm going through something, I'm like, oh, how did I not think about this? Because I was forgetting to think, and I was like
yeah.
Google for everything. So totally agree.
Very cool. Well, Dana, if somebody wanted to get a part of this trial, which I'm going to be talking about at this free event coming up on Sunday, how would they find it?
Yeah, if you're looking for property management, just kind of want to explore what's out there, new alternatives to, traditional software. That's just software. If you're looking for software plus tech and additional services, right, for your rental, you can go to www.hemlane, which is HEMLANE.com.
Thank you so much.